Hello and welcome back to Interjections. We had a successful week, picking up 2 victories, inching closer to the top of the table after Napoli dropped points. But we've got a big week ahead of us with Champions League showdowns against Arsenal and then Napoli in the league. We're going to break it down. I'm your host, Andrew. Miko, Irfan, and Jay with me. Miko, welcome back. How are you doing?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm good. It was a nice visit to Milano, although the result of the match a week ago wasn't the best possible, but at least the experience was quite memorable, to say the least.
Yes, nothing like being tortured in front of your eyes. I'm sure it was a great time. Did you have any Did you take any issues with our episode last week, Miko?
Well, uh, in general, yeah, it was a great episode, but I would say that the Rye got a little too much shat on for my liking. But well, okay, maybe the first half an hour was quite a shitting on everybody on the team, but I guess that was expected
Chateau de Fry.
given the result. Well, I think you made some comments. You guys made some comments about the Rye being like responsible for the 2 goals and blah blah blah. I didn't quite agree with that, but maybe we move on from that match and try to forget it.
I'm trying really hard to forget it myself. Irfan, what's going on?
Doing well. Like you said, 2 league wins in a row, 2 matches with Lautaro scoring. So looks like we're on the mend from that Juventus draw, and Lautaro's on his hot streak. So let's do this.
Well, Jay, I know what you were going to say, which is Lautaro is officially in a goal drought. I think you once compared him to Schrodinger's cat.
Team fucking sucks, man. Those 2 games were terrible. But no, I'm joking. I'm relieved for the 2 wins in a row. As unconvincing as it was, we took some important steps and closed the gap to the top. So I'm optimistic today. So let's get into it.
Well, a couple of, I wouldn't say similar matches, but nice victories. I want to start with the Venezia match because it's fresher in our minds and there's just maybe a little bit more to talk about. So the controversy or the main discussion point everyone's going to get into is the ending, of course, where Bisek is, I don't want to say embarrassed, but Bisek is somehow completely dominated in the air. But by missing the ball, he compels the Venezia player to handball it, and as a result, the goal is nullified. So you have a VAR check in place, and the goal is overturned. I just want to start by doing a sense check on if, Miko, you agree with that decision, and then maybe we can get into the rest of the match.
I couldn't tell even from the VAR check or the VAR video, like was it like 100% touching the hand? But to me, I think there should have been called a foul against Bisek in a similar fashion. Dumfries got called a foul in the first half when there was this penalty or possible penalty incident when this one Venezia guy tried to pull off a great Striker Larsen impersonation with his hand waving all over the place, but it ended up being a foul against Dumfries. So I would say that there should have been a foul against Bisek as well. But I guess the end result was fair enough. So, but yeah, if they saw it that okay, this is a hand with the VAR video, well, I guess I'll take it.
It felt like a bit of a lifeline. I'm not. If you look at the video review, I think you can make the argument the ball hits the hand. It's not what I would call definitive, but we'll take the lifeline. And why did we need the lifeline is the next question. We played well in this game. We created a ton of chances, but this team just wasn't able to convert them. I give Lautaro a ton of credit, mostly DeMarco actually, because DeMarco had a phenomenal pass. But there were huge misses in this game by Mkhitaryan from point blank range. Thuram missed several chances. Barella missed a chance. we created just loads of opportunities and weren't able to put them away. And a lot of that was because of their keeper, our loanee Stankovic, who in most of the publications I've read received man of the match plaudits for his efforts yesterday. Irfan, what did you think of Stankovic's performance, given that he's a Inter player and he could conceivably be someone in our future plans?
Yeah, he did really well. He had a number of really, really good saves, including the ones you mentioned. He also had a really good save on Hakan when Hakan came on and just unleashed this massive kind of shot. So credit to him. He kept Venezia in the match, definitely. But again, I think we sometimes have a tendency to make goalkeepers look really good. And I think it's because our shooting sometimes is just so bad. It's right at the keeper. I think it deserves, kind of twofold praise. Like I give the keeper praise, definitely, for making some really good saves, but I do kind of hold it against us that we're sometimes just incapable of finding the open place in the net. Trying to like make the keeper really stretch, things like that. Our finishing is just so poor at times that we shoot right at the goalie, or we kind of do this like panic shot where we just aim and try to get as much power as we can, but it just goes right at the center of the box where the keeper's standing or something like that. So I think, with a little bit more focused finishing, you can kind of take these goalkeepers' skills out of the equation, and we just consistently fail to do that. Our conversion rate, I think, is way too poor. So again, but with all that said, I do think Stankovic played really well. I mean, he played like a seasoned, mature, experienced goalkeeper. So props to him, and props to Venezia for giving him a chance and letting him play. So before Jay or somebody else brings up, Joseph Martinez, I'll just say, um, you do need to trust in goalkeepers, and I think it's good that Stankovic was getting that chance, and I think he played really well. No one can criticize him for the way he played yesterday.
It is worth noting that we came dangerously close to conceding yet again late in the game. It's the trend this season. But I don't want to focus on the trend. I want to talk about Bisek, who he played left center back. He's been playing a lot of left center back, and he's not playing nearly as well as he did last season. And I'm trying to understand how much of this is just, when you see a player more, you form a bigger opinion of them, you more reps, like just more exposure. Teams have him scouted better than previously, versus how much of this is he just doesn't belong on the left. And well, he might be capable of stepping in there, is not where he belongs. I mean, last game against Juve, we were kind of berating him for he did play on the right. But Jay, what do you make of Bisek again? I'm not even calling out. I mean, obviously it was a mistake at the end that we got lucky on, but overall, like, just the team was shaky at the back at times in the last 20 minutes of the game. So what do you make of the performance?
What I make of the performance, I think, firstly, the goalkeepers are a good place to start. I think it was a game where both goalkeepers came up really big, Stankovic and Sommer. Venezia had some just ludicrously high quality chances to score and ended up kind of putting the ball right into the keeper the same way we did. So when you take into account the high XG, if you will, of the Venezia chances, it really is an indictment on our defense. And I think, the recurring trend is, or rather, the root issue of our defensive shakiness is a mentality issue, as I've been saying for a long time. There were two examples or two moments where that was really, really clear to see. One of them was obviously right at the end where, there's literally seconds left in the game and there was still a surprising amount of space in and around our box. We weren't crowding out the box as much as we should have been. The guy who got the cross in, Chalanolu, was on him, but Dumfries and I can't remember who else, might have been Barella, but Dumfries and the other guy were too far up, kind of casually marking the Venezia player instead of stopping that ball from getting in, and that ball should never have that cross should have never been allowed in so easy. And then when the cross was floated in and found the guy who beat Bisek again, it felt like there were only 3 Inter players in the box at that stage, which is completely unacceptable when you're trying to hang on to secure the lead. You'd expect a bit more desperation, a bit more Mourinho style parking the airplane kind of thing in those moments. Perhaps the biggest moment where that mentality deficiency was really stark for me was immediately after the Mkhitaryan goal was disallowed. Firstly, that was an excellent finish by Mkhitaryan, so it was a shame that the goal was disallowed, but quite literally the phase of play from after the goal was disallowed, Venezia almost scored an identical goal to the one that was just disallowed for us. They picked up the ball, they passed it around a few times, and they had a guy ended up with a guy shooting the ball directly at Sommer. And you're watching that going, guys, fucking wake up. Like, what is this? The fact that they can just switch off like that, literally, again, seconds after they thought taking the lead, is just a really big indictment over the kind of the concentration lapses that are plaguing the squad right now. And these are not things that should affect a top title challenger. These are not things that affected us last season because we just had a different kind of tier of mental discipline, of focus and resilience, which is, I keep trying to find it. I keep looking for it within our team, but it just feels like no matter how hard I look, I'm just met with this cold hard evidence that it just doesn't seem to be there anymore. And that's not only exemplified in those 2 defensive moments, but in the attacking as well. We're just not cynical enough. We're not ruthless enough. We had many chances, and instead of just going for the route 1 option, which is to shoot, you've got thuram like cutting in onto his weaker foot for some reason, instead of trying to put the ball on his right foot and then take advantage of his stronger foot by placing it or by blasting it. Instead, he's just cutting onto his left and giving it these like weak, like kind of hooked, half-assed shots, which are just hit straight at the keeper. And you're thinking, like, is this really seriously as these guys are taking it? It just felt very unserious again. And yeah, I'll just say seriousness. It feels like they're not taking it seriously sometimes. And again, you see that in the attacking phases with the guys taking the chances for granted. And yeah, in the defensive phases when they're just switching off at really inopportune moments.
Miko, I want to get your thoughts. I was very surprised yesterday by Inzaghi's decision to roll out a full strength lineup, and in hindsight, maybe it was the right decision because we won by the narrowest of margins. But just with such a big week ahead, we're banged up at the back, we're banged up at wing back. I was expecting more rotation. So now you head into a critical juncture in the season, Arsenal, Napoli, with not a fully rested squad. What do you make of the decision? Do you have any concerns about it heading into the rest of the week?
Yeah, I would say the concern is that Inzaghi still doesn't trust the bench. On the one hand, I could say it's like it's proven that it's hard to trust them when they can't pull off results like the young boys, when I believe we had quite a bench heavy starting lineup against the young boys back then, and we needed the few starters to get the result right at the end. And I feel like that's the case with Inzaghi at the moment, which was a bit of the same like last season. He used the starters a lot last season, and why it's a bit worrying is that I think they can't pull it off anymore. They are just too tired. They are just like it's too much burden when they need to start all the time. And I'm especially worried about Bastoni, Di Marco, and Lautaro at the moment. Good thing is against Empoli, they got a bit of a break. They got subbed out pretty early, and then in this match it was the same thing, at least for I think they got subbed out at 70 minutes. or something. DeMarco played a bit more, but anyway, yeah, I'm not totally happy with the rotation. Although I understand, like you mentioned, it was probably the correct call given how hard it was still. Well, hard, but the inability to actually score the goals despite creating all these chances. It's it's another thing then also. I wanna quickly comment on the defending as well. That is a bit of an issue. We got away with it now, but Venezia had like two absolutely massive chances to score, and somehow Sommer got the boat. But we really need to. I don't know. We've been saying this for like a few weeks already, or maybe a month, that we need to like get this defending. We need to like focus on that, and I don't know what is it we can't do it. I don't know. There's always something. Some guy runs to the box and he's totally free, and all these crosses like the last second one when Pisek just somehow he just loses that challenge like 100 to 0, and I don't know what is it. It's hard to really say, but we definitely need to fix that if we want to get something out of this season, because it can't continue forever that we escape these kind of results. Even though I think at the like in the earliest part of the season we kind of conceded too easily given what kind of chances opponent was creating, but in this match, this Venezia match, they really created two great chances, and I don't think we can allow that anymore. If we continue the discussion to the Juve game, for example, how they kept scoring goals like left and right and everywhere. We just need to fix that somehow. I don't know how Inzaghi is gonna do it, but he needs to do it.
It is a little
Some of that
ironic
should,
that
yeah,
I was going to say, in a week in which we kept two
yeah.
clean sheets, we're sitting here complaining about the defending because this team really is conceding a lot of chances. We just were
Yeah.
fortunate that Summer was so strong yesterday.
Yeah, and I think some of this will improve with Hakan being back and in good form. I know the defensive lapses kind of predate him being out, but the team is a lot more organized, and just better at maintaining possession, and just better defensively with him sitting in front of the defense. So I suspect that him being back and healthy and 100% will aid us in our ability to get this defense back on track. The one thing I've noticed is, I think that the midfielders and the wing backs do need to do a better job of, playing better team defense to prevent these dangerous balls from coming in, because it's true. I wouldn't say that our center backs are individually poor or anything like that in most cases. But whenever you're allowing very dangerous balls into the box through crosses or whatever, you're putting a lot of pressure on your center backs to defend 1v1. And in most cases, they're okay doing that, but it's just I think we're too casual in allowing these balls to come in the first place. There's been a couple of times now, including the first kind of real chance that Venezia had, where the opponent was like able to essentially run past two of our players, storming into the box, and then unleashed a cross that went to Orstano or whatever, and he shot luckily right at Summer. But you can't let guys run into the box, and you can't let guys get to the corner and not be like closing them out. I just think that there's not enough intensity on the front end preventing some of this stuff from happening, and then we're scratching our heads wondering why, some dangerous ball that's coming into the box isn't dealt with by our center backs. And again, that will happen, but I think we need to do a better job of preventing that ball from going in the first place. When teams play against us, you can see how many times our crosses or our, passes into the box are deflected or, hit out of bounds or something like that, or defended appropriately. Teams are just playing with a lot more energy on defense against us, then I feel like we're playing against them, and we just can't have that. Like, you can't have this kind of lackadaisical view of, oh well, they're so far away from our goal, so that's okay. Well, yeah, but they're in great positions to insert a great cross or to have some teasing ball come in through the box. Like, you can't just be so casual on the front end of that. So I expect some of that will get cleared up, but the team just as a unit, I think, needs to defend better. I'm hoping Inzaghi has some sort of plan for that.
I wanna quickly comment on this last chance. I had to review it, and that explains, or not explain, but it proves that, I don't know, this strange thing in our defending, that there's 10 seconds left of the match, and when the Venezia guy gets the ball on the edge of our box or inside the box, when Çalhanoğlu challenged him, it was like 6 against 6 in our box, including Çalhanoğlu and the guy with the ball. And then Çalhanoğlu loses his challenge and he allows the cross to the box, and it's like 5 against 5. And Dumfries and Fratesi, they are like totally out of the game at that point. And I can't understand why can it be like that. Why there's no more support? It's like basically 1 against 1 Inter players versus Venezia players in our box, and it's like 10 seconds left of the match. Like, there's just something, I don't know. It's just hard to understand why can't they like focus on the essential things at any given moment. I understand it's late in the match, but still, there's just something missing. And I don't know if it's Acerbi. Can he like I don't know, or organize the defending somehow, like on a pitch level better than De Vrij. But it's just the general positioning and the decision making of the ball of the players in the defensive phase. There's just they need to try to fix that. There's just too much issues.
Yeah, as you said, if it's 6-on-6 inside the box, it should be 10-on-6, like literally, or 11-on-6. Literally every single interplayer should be in the box at that stage, trying to preserve the win. But instead, as you said, you've got Fratesi and Dumfries doing fuck all, trying to like start a counter attack or something, and you got a striker high up the pitch. Everyone needs to be in there fighting again. Like, this is not to like exaggerate, but it should be like Inter at Camp Nou 2010. You know what I mean? Like, everyone needs to be back there and fighting. And again, we're just taking it for granted. The players are taking it for granted that it'll be fine. The 3 defenders and and the DM and whatever, that'll be enough. But no, it's not. Again, you have to have everyone back there fighting tooth and nail to preserve the win, and that just seems to be lacking this season. Like I said, the guys are taking it for granted that they'll win the same way they did against Empoli or playing other opponents this season. That's why we're conceding these late goals all the time.
I do want to touch on the Empoli game quickly. I don't know if there's a ton to talk about. It was a straightforward affair, courtesy of the VAR red card earlier in the match. Fratesi picks up a couple goals. The one thing I actually want to touch on was the Palacios debut. We've all been clamoring, anxiously awaiting to see him in an Inter kit. So, Miko, now that you got to see 9 minutes of him, do you think we're going to see more going forward? Did you like what you saw? Or do you think this is a matter of we're up 3-0 in a end of match scenario? We just threw him on for the sake of it?
Yeah, I think it is more of the latter, but I would hope to see him play maybe in the Coppa match in December, and
I'm just
maybe
thinking with
even
the sack not looking great at left center back, maybe there's something there.
yeah. I would guess he's going to see mostly these kind of minutes if we have game in the back already. But yeah, he didn't look like out of place or anything. But of course the game was like over at that point. But yeah, cool to see him get the debut anyway. As for the match, I was happy in a sense that I feel that this Empoli away match would have been a tougher one, given that they've been pretty decent in this season. They haven't conceded a lot, although they haven't scored either too much. but this away match was something that I felt that it could be a trap game for us, and luckily it wasn't. Probably big part of that was the red card, which was again quite idiotic, like in the same fashion as in the Torino match when both cases thuram gets studs struck to his leg quite heavily. But yeah, I was happy we could get a result and kind of maybe preserve a bit of energy since it was like 1 hour man advantage, and we get to sub out Bastoni early, Lautaro pretty early, or was it actually Lautaro? Did he came on? Did he start the match against Empoli? He did. Okay, Lautaro didn't wasn't subbed off, but at least Bastoni and was DiMarco also subbed off. So they got some rest, since I feel that Bastoni and DiMarco both, they are so important in our game that we need to try to save them as much as possible. So I think my takeaways from that match was mostly that we got kind of a easier easier task this time thanks to the red card.
Irfan, what's your take? We've talked a lot about VAR this episode. You've got the VAR red card that popped up against Empoli. There were a few VAR instances yesterday, including a couple of offside goals disallowed. What's your take on? I know it's a loaded question here, but what's your take on the use of VAR in the sport lately? Like, are you okay with the level of review we're seeing? Or do you think VAR is getting it right more often than not? Like, how do you feel about this thing?
Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about it, to be honest. I mean, I still don't like the fact that there's a disruption in the match, but like I would much rather take VAR looking at these instances than rely on the initial call on the pitch, because I think that just creates a lot more issues and ambiguity, and um, invites a lot more kind of scandal and things like that. So I'm okay with it. I would love it if there was like a better way for them to handle it without disrupting the match, but I think they've actually improved on that too. A lot of times they'll be kind of reviewing it real time, which I think is okay. But I don't know. It is like a dual edged sword in the sense that it does slow the game down. It kind of takes a little bit of the authenticity away of it, but in another sense, it does preserve the integrity because you're making sure that any kind of controversial decision is checked or double checked. So it really doesn't bother me. But I can see why some people, get turned off by it. But yesterday, I think, and against Empoli, it did its job pretty well. I mean, I don't think anyone can argue that the red card against Empoli was harsh or undeserved. And I didn't think that last play against Venezia where they scored was actually that controversial at all. I think it was a pretty clear handball. And if you're gonna deny the handball earlier in the match using VAR, where they thought that Dumfries fouled the guy, which maybe he pushed him, but I think that you could argue that his hand position was already really bizarre before there was any sort of push. So I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's called in to make difficult calls, and I think for the most part it gets it right. But then there's always still some instances where I'm just like, why did they not VAR this? Because it was pretty clear that this happened and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's some balance that they're trying to strike, but overall, I think it's better for the game to be in it. But curious if you all agree or disagree.
My main complaints honestly has to do with more the broadcast policies that the league has, which is it drives me crazy that during these reviews we are just staring at the referee who is talking on a microphone to someone we can't see, instead of like they should be pumping out replays of these moments live. Typically they only show the replays after the decision has been made. Like very rarely do they show you the real time replay. So that's my biggest complaint about VAR. You just feel like you're left in the dark or really have no basis for what's going into the decision. but I can't think of many instances lately where I've disagreed with a VAR decision. Like, I'm generally happy with how things worked out. And I was just thinking of the Empoli game where in different scenarios where, their player is not sent off if VAR does not intervene. So obviously benefited us there. Obviously we benefited again against Venezia at the end of the game. But in an older version of the league, is this the stuff we'd be on a podcast complaining about if not for VAR? I don't know.
We're complaining about it anyway.
We excel at complaining about things. It's just what we do. We've even dragged Miko down to our level and get some complaints out of him now. It's a beautiful thing.
Once the election results are decided tomorrow, they're going to get rid of VAR.
I think once the election results are decided tomorrow, we might lose Miko as a co-host.
My complaint actually about the VAR is it takes the emotion out of the game too much. Like you can't celebrate goals properly because you are afraid of some fucking stupid fall 10 seconds earlier or something, some offside way earlier than the actual play happened. And one thing I'm hopeful is that in the future the offsides would be like an really automatic, like 1 second after it happened or it's called, there comes the result, is it the offside or not, because it feels so dumb to wait for the offside line to be drawn and blah blah blah. That's what I want to get rid of, the current situation that we need to wait for the offside calls to take so long to check those. But maybe that's possible with better technology later. But then the other plays need to be, of course, reviewed by human eye. But yeah, that's my take on the VAR.
Have you guys used any AI for work? That shit is terrifyingly good. I imagine in the not too distant future, it'll all be done by AI. So, the AI will be watching the replay in real time and be calling offsides instantaneously. So, yeah.
I hope that's the future we see soon enough.
So, in other words, you want an AI-dominated, bleak, post-human future.
No, maybe that's bit too far.
A dystopian robot mandated world.
Do you think we can AI generate a backup striker?
Let's not get there. What when's the last time Arnautovic played? I noticed he hasn't featured in a few matches, right?
I believe it was the Champions League performance, right, where he missed the penalty.
Yeah, hasn't been allowed on the pitch after that.
Yeah, even Korea's seen a few minutes since then.
Sterling pointed it out, and I think he's exactly right, that it seems like Arnautovic is our Champions League guy and Correa is our league guy, and we need a fourth striker. That seems to be the split of minutes this season.
What a horrendous time to be an Inter fan.
Okay, let's transition to the Champions League. We want to talk about Arsenal. Just for you all to be aware, we're going to publish a post-Arsenal pre-Napoli episode, so we're going to pass on talking about Napoli right now. But Arsenal come to town, home match at the San Siro this upcoming Wednesday. They have not been here in nearly 15 years. I think we talked about this previously. They are just like us on 7 Champions League points. They had a draw against Gasperini and Atalanta in their first Champions League rounds. They had an impressive win over PSG, and then they beat some team I'm blanking on who's not any good. So it's on 7 points. Jay, I know you have lots and lots of thoughts on Arsenal. I know you, unlike me, actually watch Arsenal matches. So please give me an Arsenal preview.
Well, I don't really watch Arsenal matches. I don't know. Arsenal are like the Milan of England for me. It just seems like their fans just got really just too loud for some reason. At least like Milan somehow fucking fluked the league title out of all their bullshit. But like Arsenal, I just don't understand why I have to be subjected to Saliba is the best centre back in the world after one good season where they finished second or something. Like come on, guys. It's the insufferable overconfidence of of a fan base amplified by the inherent insufferable overrating of English football and English football teams and English football players. And so when you put two and two together, I just find, I just find they talk a bit too much when you consider what they've actually won, which is nothing except for an FA Cup, I think. Having said that, only an idiot would deny that they're a strong team. And so I think we're in for a real challenge when they come on Wednesday night, especially considering that we did not rotate against. I forgot who we played against. Venezia. Whereas I think Arsenal had a day extra of rest playing against Newcastle, where they lost. Yeah, man, it's really going to be tough. I think we struggle with tricky, pacey, technical, wide players, and Arsenal are pretty stacked in that area. They have the likes of Trossard and Saka and Martinelli, Havertz, etc. Even though Havertz tends to play central, he drifts out wide a lot as well. So, yeah, I consider this to be, if the Man City away match was 5 stars, and I consider this 4, maybe even 4.5, partly because we just tend to shit the bed against English opposition for the most part, which is really annoying for us, but perhaps there's a bit of a mental block there as well. But I'm concerned that our overall lack of form is going to be a big factor here. Having said that, we have generally kind of separated our league form from our Champions League form pretty well. If I'm not mistaken, we're yet to concede a goal in the Champions League, right? We drew 0-0 at Man City. We beat Red Star 3 or 4-0, and then we went away and won at Young Boys 1-0. So I think we haven't conceded yet, which is obviously good. I don't think Arsenal have conceded either, actually. I think they drew 0-0 against Atalanta, beat PSG 2-0, and then beat, I think, Shakhtar Donetsk 1-0 or something like that. So I could be wrong, but both teams are in a very similar boat right now. Both teams have had very strong starts to their CL campaign, and yeah, I think this one is really, really close. I won't skip ahead to a prediction already, but I don't think there's going to be that much in it. Maybe a goal difference. I can't see, one team beating the other by more than a 2-goal margin.
Arsenal are one of those funny teams that you're just talking about. Like, why do you have to see Arsenal so much? And like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, they became one of those like trendy teams to follow in America, where suddenly everyone you knew had an Arsenal kit. I think it was fresh off their undefeated season in 2003, and you could not get away from this team. And they went like 17 years without winning a trophy, and it kind of died down, and some like German clubs came into favor. But I know, Irfan, you were probably dealing with this a lot too.
Yeah, I've always been a little partial towards Arsenal because the first European match I ever watched was an Arsenal match, and the first Champions League final I ever watched was an Arsenal match when they played Barcelona back when I think Thierry Henry was on the other side. So it's been a team that I've always kind of randomly followed. I've always respected them quite a bit. Yeah, I know, but I do agree that, like every other prominent EPL team, they get a lot of hype, and most of the hype is undeserved when you look at kind of how they've performed. They've never really, they haven't won the league in forever, and when they come close, they usually choke it away. And then, obviously they've never performed particularly well in any of the European competitions. So it is one of those teams where the legend seems to be much higher than is probably deserved. But I don't have any ill will towards Arsenal the way I might have towards like a Manchester City, just because I feel like all of that early EPL hype that used to get dominated by Chelsea has now just become everything Man City. Like every fan who's ever discovered European football in like the last 10 years is a Manchester City fan. And that to me is a lot more infuriating than Arsenal. But I expect it'll be a tough match. The thing with Inter still is, I think, that we do play up to the competition. So I think we'll be ready. We'll be charged. We'll be focus to play. The lack of rotation really does worry me because we've seen some of our main players now play a ton. I really do think, though, that this match is going to come down to our ability to cohesively defend, and having Hakan back will definitely help with that. But what worries me is that I think we need to start seeing some better interplay between Thuram and Lautaro. I don't know. I think Thuram's early season success has maybe given him some blinders in the box, but I think he needs to do a better job of keeping his head up and trying to find Lautaro and find some of the other players sometimes too. And I know with strikers, you're always managing that expectation because you want them to be ruthless, you want them to be taking shots. But again, I do feel like Thuram sometimes just gets way too short-sighted and just looks directly for goal and doesn't even bother to even try to see the players that are in the box and pick out somebody. So I think if Lautaro and Thuram can work a little bit on their chemistry and their interplay, I feel pretty good about this because, like Miko was saying earlier, and like I've said in multiple episodes, for us, as long as we've got that DeMarco and Bastoni connection going, we're in it in pretty much every match. So with those guys there, even if they're a little tired, I expect us to perform and perform really well. And I do hope, these things for a lot of Serie A fans, for a lot of Inter fans, maybe this stuff doesn't matter. But I do think this is a great example, kind of like when we play Man City, where there's going to be a lot of eyes on us, in the continent, in the world, that are usually not on us. And so I really do hope that these guys come prepared and they deliver a good performance, because anytime you're playing one of these EPL hype teams, you have some really good chances to kind of showcase your talent and represent Italy and represent the club really well, in a stage where, the announcers are going to be talking only about Arsenal. Most of the fans are going to be all about Arsenal. So it'll be interesting if we can kind of hold our own and put in a good performance and get some respect the way we have basically whenever we've played Man City.
Just quickly, did you know Arsenal are the third favourite to win the Champions League among all the
exactly.
Doesn't that kind of like
money.
Nuts. That's nuts.
It's like based on what? It's like they're fucking based on what? Like, when's the last time they came remotely close to winning the Champions League? As you mentioned, it's that game you watched when they lost to Barcelona in the final, where Eto'o scored, and other than that, they haven't ever been close. They constantly choke in like the round of 16 and quarterfinals against Porto and teams like this. In some ways, very Inter-esque. And this is a team with, and I just feel like I'm just shitting on Arsenal at this point, so I apologize to any Arsenal fans listening. Not that there is any, but this is not a team with
fans listening either.
This is not a team with any European pedigree. They have 0 Champions League, 0 Europa League cups, 0. Like, I'm not one to be like, fucking Inter's won 3 Champions Leagues and 3 Europa Leagues and whatnot, but I think these things do matter at least a little bit. That's why you see, it just seems like Real Madrid always win. They just always find ways to win, and it's that prestige. It comes with the confidence of having won like 25 Champions Leagues, or however fucking many they've won. It's why Milan. No, I'm kidding. I won't go there.
All right, that's where I cut you off.
No, but all jokes aside, third favorite to win the Champions League, and this has been from like the start of the season. They are still considered the third favorites based on the live odds, but they've been given that third seed, or that third favorite spot right from the beginning, after only Man City and Real Madrid, and that to me is just, it's just mental. But again, it's just that English dominated kind of sphere of influence that we operate under, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, so much of that is just Harry from Liverpool, who watches EPL matches, has more money than the average guy, and is sprinkling some cash on Arsenal, and they're just betting up Arsenal's odds because that's all these people watch. So I try not to read too much into that, but it also just speaks to how much people do not pay attention to leagues outside of the EPL and the big two in La Liga. Miko, we've got to look at this game against Atalanta that Arsenal drew a bit more in depth and see if that's a blueprint to success, because Arsenal, or Atalanta rather, had higher XG. That hack Retegi missed a penalty that would have put them up 1-0. They outpossessed them. Like there were chances in that match for Atalanta to win it. It was a home match in Italy. I don't know if you watched that game, but do you use that all as a blueprint for a path to victory here?
I watched it a bit. I remember that Arsenal wasn't like, they weren't too good in that match, and I think the stats back up that pretty well. But they also didn't. They managed to keep the clean sheet thanks to the goalie and the great save on the penalty. Yeah, I feel that match between Inter and Arsenal will be maybe a bit more open, in a sense that it feels that we will try to push for the goals, and that might bite us, because I feel that we are a bit vulnerable against counterattacks, and Arsenal has players who can counterattack. But then on the other hand, I don't know about their defense. Is it really that great? They have conceded quite a few goals, not as much as us in the league, but over 10 anyway. And I have some kind of a hope that we can break their defense. But then my concern is obviously our defense as well, and especially the latter part of the match. Whatever the result is, I assume it's not like 3-0 for us. So the defending will be even more important. And when we probably need to take Bastoni out again, we probably need to take DiMarco out, and it becomes just like a battle there. Unless we are chasing, then it might be even more harder for us then to get a result. But those are my concerns. Since this Carlos Augusto injury, I think it's more important than we actually have realized, or maybe people have realized that, and I haven't. But he's so useful as a bench player, because he can be subbed in either for Bastoni and DiMarco, and when he's not available, it becomes like, okay, do we put Bissek on, do we put Darmian on, and they are like massive downgrades from what we have on the pitch. So I'm a bit concerned regarding the defending, as we've talked about the defending in general.
Yes, we have slowly brought Miko over to the side of pessimism, and he is predicting a 4-0 Arsenal win.
No, that's what I'm not predicting, but I'm just I'm a bit cautious with the result. But the good thing already in advance is that we are in a very good spot in the Champions League. The target result is like 16 points, and we are at 7 at the moment. So
what you're saying is this is a budgeted loss.
That's what I'm saying.
and it's okay.
That's what I'm hearing.
It's okay if we lose.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, Arsenal fans have been critical of Arteta's approach in away games in Europe. I've seen some sentiment that, again, in Europe, in European games, when they travel, that they've been very negative, that they've been overly cautious, very defensive, very hesitant to attack. So I don't know if that's like an experience thing on Arteta's part, considering he is still quite a young manager, or young into his managerial career, and or whether it's just something to do with the injuries. I don't think they have that many injuries, but they are missing perhaps their most influential creative player in Odegaard, so it might be something to do with that. Who knows? But for what it's worth, it seems to be a real thing. So if Arsenal do tend to sit back, I think that'll suit us. But we have to obviously worry about getting caught. I think it does, but obviously we have to worry about getting caught on the counter.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried, because I feel like even these more minor Serie A teams caught us in the back time to time, and like I feel Milan. That like Milan. So I feel like someone like Saka, for example, he can.
Can you imagine Saka against the Chubby?
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't want to see that.
You can just pull Chiellini and pull him down by his collar.
I was just about to say Achobe's gonna have to. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I've got to get going, so let's do some predictions. Miko?
Okay, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with 2-2. So it's gonna be a more open, but we end up drawing this match.
That's not hard to envision with our defenders. Jay, go ahead.
I'm gonna cop out a little bit. I'm gonna say it's either a 0-0, or I think we might sneak it 1-0. I really do think it's going to be 1-0 for either team, or more likely a scoreless draw, or maybe even a 1-1. So basically, I've given 4 potential outcomes, but you get my point. I'm going under 2.5 goals. I'm going, Arsenal and or Inter or draw. So I'm just kind of hedging my bets here. I really don't think it's going to be like a blowout or like a particularly, high scoring affair. And I just want to say, I think Retegui might be a better striker than Lautaro.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
This
All
guy.
right.
This
So
guy.
he thinks Skamaka is a better striker than Lautaro because Skamaka is clearly better than Retegui.
Clear.
I don't know what to do with. I don't know what to do with any of that. But I will say, I think, we get a lot of criticism for being too negative. So I'm going to end this with a positive note. I think we're going to win against Arsenal 2-1. I think we're going to put in a good display, and I think we're going to come away with the 3 points. 2-1 Inter win. Let me get goals from Hakan and Lautaro.
I'm also going with a victory. I have a 2-0 victory. I just think this season our energy is really channeled on the Champions League. We're going out there with something to prove, and while this team has lacked concentration at times, this team has lacked the cohesiveness we've wanted. In the Champions League, we looked a lot better, including the City away match, where, let's be honest, that's the toughest fixture in European football, arguably, away to City. And yet we came out and we played as well as we could have. Arsenal, not the same quality as City. We've got this match at home. I think Arsenal is going to be a little bit more defensive based on the way Jay was describing things. So give me a victory. It will be thuram and Arnautovic with a late finishing up goal. I don't know, feeling oddly optimistic as we head into this one. Jay, I will take a hot betting tip on Real versus Milan this week.
The 2 most glorious clubs in European football, 2 titans of prestige. I didn't actually know they were playing each other, but
Ancelotti against his former team.
That's right. Is it at Madrid?
I think so, because we're at home. Yeah,
that makes sense. I'm going to go with a Milan upset, 4-0.
Of course.
No, I joke. I do think it'll be I think it'll be the opposite of us in terms of like scoreline. Like I think it'll be a big scoreline. I think you'll get Pulisic and Leao on the scoreline, and I think Real will win it late with goals from the usual big players. Vinicius, Rodrigo seems to score a lot in the Champions League. I don't know if he's injured. I feel like I haven't heard much out of Rodrigo this season. And of course, Bellingham. So I think, I've just got it so ingrained in me to say that Milan will win. But I think Real Madrid will win 3-2. But, a valiant effort from Milan.
Wow, what a nice positive ending to the podcast. I'll just say we've been getting a lot of listener feedback lately, comments, things like that. So keep them coming, guys. We do enjoy the engagement, and we'll respond to as many as we can. And if you have something you want us to discuss on the episode, just feel free to leave a comment, whether it be on Spotify, YouTube, whatever you're using. So we'll wrap up there. Nice chatting with you all. Like I said, we'll be back on Thursday to recap the Arsenal match, preview a big Scudetto showdown against Napoli. We'll catch you all then.
Come on, you Gunners. Miko, where's your Forza Inter? Miko, come on.
Miko, come on, man.
All right. Yeah. See you on Forza Inter.
There we go.
There it is.
Any of y'all watch AFTV? That guy is shit blood. Fuck that guy, fam. You hear me, fam? That guy is shit blood. Fucking bumbleclat, That'll be me. That'll be me cursing out Lautaro for missing a penalty after the game. 14 to let's do it. Let's fucking go.